My levels are just fine. Someone's gonna have to mute themselves while we talk so that they can check.
Sure.
Alright, Robin, Soren, you're doing that?
Yep.
Alright.
Already.
Okay, guys, just like stream warm up, I guess, and also level checkup. I'm just speaking normally. This is the volume that I'm going to try to keep. You guys, how are you guys doing? How are you? I know that you've been saying that you're excited, but are you excited for today's session?
I am excited. I'm nervous. I don't know why I'm nervous. A little nervous.
I mean, we might see some interesting stuff that we haven't gone through yet.
I know.
See me, I'm just generally excited for it. Just to kind of get myself more in the mindset of Dorban to nail down some things, because I've been like trying stuff back and forth as I'm playing him. Didn't have like a real solid baseline for him yet. So
Oh yeah.
Apparently, Robert and I are a little bit louder than you.
Yep.
Okay, I'll just boost my volume. How about now? Am I coming through a little bit more on par with the guys?
I hope so.
Yeah, same. I'm not yelling. I'm just talking normal.
Yeah.
I think this is how I will talk through the session.
Hopefully.
I mean, I'm likely louder than I am when I'm just chilling talking.
He says it's closer.
Okay, still a
Maybe
little
like
bit
5%.
Yeah.
2%.
I mean, if I go any louder than this, if I ever go like, and then like that
And
kind
then
of like,
you,
I'm gonna peak.
yeah, you're peaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're peaking. I can, if you want to keep it where it was, and then I can just talk louder. Talk quieter. I can do that.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that my volume settings give you a listenable sound level when like Twitch or YouTube is at like 10-20%. So I can also lower everyone, myself included. And then we'll have a... Yeah, I can also level out people. But the problem is, like, me sounding at the same volume that everyone else without peaking.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I already have everyone leveled out, so they sound at about the same volume.
Mm-hmm.
It's just me with everyone else, because I have no way of checking my own volume except through the level meter.
Right.
Yeah.
Alright, do I need to increase my volume or lower?
You peaked just a tiny bit when you said alright.
Ooh. If the thing is, if you are hearing me peak, that means that my system sound, my mic at a system level is wrong.
Robert, do you hear that?
I mean, I think Bosun's mic has never been really great, so.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's pretty alright, Mike.
It's not
I'm not saying it's bad.
Way to just attack him.
Yeah.
Okay, let's check.
I just said it wasn't great.
Robin,
Yeah.
I will.
I can't because I can't log into my Twitch.
Oh yeah, no. Heidi needs to check my volume as well. So this is just me leaning back, talking normally, not talking directly into the mic. You know that shit. And yeah. Easy days.
Oh man.
Aw, dang. Bosun, you need to compare to me.
Okay. This is what I sound like normally when I'm not, like, speaking very loudly. And this is when something very epic happens.
See, I think that actually sounds pretty good. It doesn't sound like it's speaking to me.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's pretty okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, come back and we can start the sesh.
Yo. Yo.
You're back.
And I'm just gonna do a very quick Twitch, my channel, mute myself, so we don't get an endless loop, and post this on chat because people were asking to watch the stream. All right. So, today we have a somewhat atypical session. We're going to be doing a little bit of a background development session. Mostly because we couldn't get everyone together last Wednesday, and we prepared some stuff, failed to run the session, and now are coming back at it with replenished energy. So, guys, who, or better, a better choice of words is, what scene would you guys like to see first?
Should we roll a d20 to see who goes first?
If you'd like to.
I feel that's apt.
Yeah.
Sure. Alright. Go for a natural roll without any modifiers or anything. Just a roll 20.
Oh, fuck you.
Wow, way to be a bitch. Oh,
Well,
I forgot that was Iron Torch. My bad.
I was like, who the fuck is rolling like Iron Torch?
I almost rolled an 18, so that would have been really funny. It was like 18, and then it was like, just kidding.
Alright, so Robin, you get first pick of a scene. Then we're going to do Dorban, and then lastly Slylera. So, Robin, which scene would you like to see first?
Well, I feel like chronologically, in my brain, I would like to see the day before or the time before Robin's birth, because I feel like that's going to happen before all of the other scenes.
Sure. I mean, we don't need to see anything chronologically. We can skip and jump. But if you'd like to see that, it feels better, right?
I think that's going to be the one, though.
Okay. All right. So, oh, there we go. I was waiting for the rain to loop again. So, what we see. I'm gonna do this very different from my usual GMing style. So bear with me and let me know if you guys like this type of description. We see Corvosa, this coastal city with high-rise walls surrounding it on all sides. Ruins of the older times where it had at one point been at war and then was conquered by the Shalaxian Empire. We see its high-rise buildings that stack over each other towards the center, surrounding this beautiful castle with fancy and elaborate chateaus, gilded on its corners, even silver gutters adorning the very rooftops of these houses. And we see a window slightly deformed by the water running down its side. You see the little driplets, and through that window, through that stained glass, we see the face of a rather well-built man, dressed in fine clothes, a deep, rich green embroidered with gold. He's slowly scratching his chin. He has this sort of... He's got a smile that he's trying to suppress. He looks happy, but at the same time trying not to appear so. He turns around and we can't quite hear what he's saying, but we can tell that he's talking to another man. So I'm gonna bring over a couple images so you guys know what we're looking like, what we're looking at right now. Just making sure that everything is up to date. Let's do this. Robin, you'll probably recognize this image. As we see the beautifully depicted Lord Richard Bangs. Oops. Lord
I'm
Richard
not
Banks.
surprised that's his name.
Which one? Richard?
Yeah, Dick Banks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed. So we see Richard Banks, and he's got now his back to the window, and he's talking to this fine young gentleman, who he addresses to as Frank, and they seem to be. I heard an echo, so I'm going to stop for a second. There you go. He seems to be. I don't know who it is, but someone is coming through. It's Robin.
Soren. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're.
I can hear.
Somehow we
Yeah.
can hear Vosen through your shit.
Yeah. Technical
We better-
difficulties.
I'm just gonna raise the threshold a little bit.
Do you not have headphones on?
Not right now, no. I can throw them on.
I would recommend that you put headphones on.
Sure thing.
Just in general, like if we're ever doing sessions, I highly recommend headphones on if you're gonna be with your mic open. Alright, so as I was saying, we see Richard Banks speaking to this fine gentleman who seems to be a little bit younger than him. Why can you guys not see? There we go. Aha! Fixed it. So, they seem to be speaking about a certain deal for bank enterprise shipyards specifically. As Frank has very recently, from what he is saying, purchased such a fine vessel from Richard. And as they are speaking, we sort of start to see the camera sort of go through the glass pane, and the mumbled words come into a little bit more nitidity, right? Become a little bit more clear, and we hear Richard go, "Well, I know. We can procure the vessel. It won't be trivial, but I do have some very important matters to attend to. See, it's not every day that I have the pleasure of being informed of my heir being born. Well, Tessa has gone into labor a couple hours ago, so if we could just finish this, just sign on the dotted line, and we'll be done with it. So I can go meet my darling little Robin for the first time. Yes. Sure. You said Tessa. Right, Tessa has already gone into labor. Right. Best of luck to you then. Those things can very often get a little bit complicated. You never know what to expect. Fate can be a cruel mistress, but I'm sure you know that already, Richard. And Frank, who has just finished signing the paperwork, shakes hands with Richard, and we see him give him a bow very respectfully, turn around and leave through the main door of the study room. And the moment Frank is gone, Richard sort of straightens up his chabot, fluffs it up a little bit. We can see his smile now fully displayed, and he starts to go through the side door and into deeper into the Banks estate. Later that night, we sort of fade to black, and we see the next scene unfolding. We see the night sky outside through the windows, still gloomy and raining, but now with the odd spark of lightning and cutting through the deep darkness of the night. And we see uh, not what we would expect at first. We see a crib with a bundled up baby Robin. We see the room in which he is, completely devoid of any accompanying adults. It is a little bit lonely looking. It looks more so like a office than a nursery. And as we sort of look around a little bit more, we see that he's sort of in a corner in Richard's office, in his study room. And we hear off in the distance um, the clattering of metal on metal. We'll hear the screams of pain of someone being struck. We hear wood cracking, glass shattering, and a moment later we see the door open, and Richard, who is very clearly sweaty, has a bottle of rum in one hand, and has a very clear gush, a very deep cut in his left hand, and is slowly trickling blood as he comes into the room. Puts that bloody hand on the back of the door and slams it shut as he walks and stands over and next to Robin. And that, my dear fellows, is the first scene of tonight's session, which I hope is going to be riddled with strange and different kind of scenes. How's that type of description, narrative description at least?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It made
Yeah.
me so sad.
Yep.
Poor Robin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. I just realized that Robin does not show up with his name underneath it on stream. There we go. Right.
Oh, perfect.
These two fellows are gonna disappear for the time being, but they, as I'm sure you can tell, are gonna be back later on.
Heck yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right. Dorbin, it is your turn to pick which scene which you should like to see next. Doesn't have to be yours, by the way. Yeah, Sir Ariantort.
Yeah. I'm gonna say the best for last. So I'm gonna go ahead and go with Alkbar's how he is in battle.
All right. So similarly to before, we see this sort of bird's eye view of a open field, which clashes, sort of melds into a lush forest, and we see it's not quite an army, but it looks like a battalion of armed forces, dispersed in that sort of front line where field meets forest, and we see the sort of disparaged movements of the army. We see it start to break apart as 5 men lose their position in the formation and are being overrun by several dozen of undead creatures which are crawling out of the woods and leaping into battle. And as we see this start to occur, we see also the other flank of the formation start to retreat, leaving behind that sort of cluster of soldiers behind. And Dorbin, you're there with your teacher, with your companion in this short and fateful journey, as Alkbar points you in the direction of the wounded, as his eyes are sort of focused on the battlefield. and he tells you to go treat the wounded. Come on, boy. Go tend to the wounded. I'll take care of this part. As he starts to raise a hand, and you see the energy start to concentrate there. Dorman, what are you doing
Yeah.
in this moment?
I mean, I'm gonna do as I told.
All right. So we
He was my
see,
senior.
yeah, we see Dorman sort of very. I'm failing the word. It's not loyally. It's diligently. Very diligently break out from his superior and go to tend to the wounded. And we see this sort of glow of golden light start to imbue one of the tents as Dorman starts to work there. And in the meantime, we see Alkbar raise his hammer with one hand up above his head, and we see the same kind of golden glow start to wrap the head of the hammer. And as he looks forward, it says, Abadar, grant us strength, protection for those who fight for those causes, right and just. And then leaps forward, grabs the hammer midair with both hands, and crashes it into the ground. And from it, we see a crack start to spread pass underneath the feet of the fighting warriors, and we see that cluster of armed men that is currently under a pile of undead burst in flames as a pillar 30 feet high of pure white flames stretches up and lights the surrounding area. And as we do, we see sort of the faces of the men turn both in fear of the undead, but in awe of the divine display on the battlefield. And as that happens, we see the men that were just moments ago covered by the rotting corpses, reanimated to spell their doom, start to push off the cinder and ash and emerge from that column of fire unscathed. And they look confused for a moment, see their companions fighting more of the undead, and leap forward again into battle with a reinvigorated war cry. Charge! And as we do see this, we fade black to black again. And that is a little bit of what Alkbar is like in the battlefield.
Heck yeah.
Alright. Salera, which scene would you like to see?
Actually, real quick.
Yes.
Did you want to show everybody watching what Alkbar looks like?
Ah, yes. Thank you for reminding me, because I did prepare Alkbar's token for this. The thing is, I am looking at the tokens. I just need to move them from one map to the other. Oh, I just realized I forgot to show Tessa. Hang on, because we did see Richard Banks. We didn't see Tessa Jagara Banks.
There would have been a portrait of her in the office.
Yep, there would have been, yes, a portrait, a beautiful portrait of this golden-haired miss of the house, lady of the house. All right, so first off, Akbar. Look at this
Damn.
golden specimen of a dwarf. That man knows what is going on, let me tell you.
That is a scary ass dwarf, just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got like tattoos which are ancient dwarven runes, not carved, tattooed on his head, which spell out prayers to Abadar.
Nice.
That is the level of his.
Dedicated.
Yeah, that's his level of dedication to the cause.
Sick.
Yeah. And let me show you Tessa. Tessa Jagara Bangs, aka Robin's mother.
Damn.
Eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
when Robin keeps complaining about his nose not being properly drawn in those wanted posters, his looks most definitely come from his mother and not from his father.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because Richard does not have the level of refinement and softness that Tessa does.
It's because he's a fucking weasel.
Robin's got baby face.
Adorable.
Alright, so Lara, which scene would you like to see first?
I would love to
Oops.
see something about a dinner party.
Mm-hmm. Wrong click. Which dinner party though? One with the banks? The event?
What you had said something about dinner with my family.
Yes. So I think I might have forgotten to mention that there are two dinner parties. One which is a family thing, and one which is more so an event hosted by the banks.
Well, I would love to do the family dinner.
All right. So we see the rather more elegant and simple interior of the Sunstress household. The interiors, while very exquisitely decorated by the finest pieces of art available in the land, has that air of sophistication that can only be brought by a well balanced style. There is just the right amount of these fine pieces sort of strewn about the house so that your eyes never get quite tired enough of seeing these depictions of the most beautiful landscapes of Galarian, the mighty clash of warrior against dragon by the hearth in the family room. And I think that is where we pick up this family meeting more so than a dinner. As Salera, you're sort of having a little bit of an after dinner uh, resting time shared with your parents. As we see Mael and Anais sort of sitting together on a rather larger sofa. Sort of not quite a sofa per se, but not quite an armchair. Sort of that. It's meant to evocate that need to share it with someone, and we see sort of Anais with her arm over her husband's shoulders, and she's holding the one page of the book that they're reading, um, and like slowly turning the pages as Mael is holding the book. And he sort of alternates between looking at the pages and looking at you, Solera. And I think this is around when you've started your incursion into the Bardic College. Um, so it's a little bit later in your life. It's a little bit close to current time. Um, and Mael sort of looks up and says, "Darling, I know we've been talking about your future. We were just, I've been wondering if, well, you've given thought to um, betrothal. Oh God, I can't say that word. Betrothal. No, betrothal.
Betrothal.
There we go.
There you
Betrothal. Betrothal. Offers that have come in, or I know that you're more of a free spirit, and well, surely your mother and I didn't come by that way, but it's never wrong to ask. He gives you a smile, and you can tell that he's perhaps a little bit concerned about something.
Well, I don't feel that I am at a point where I should really be taking any of these um, offers seriously, considering I'm not quite done with my studies.
Well,
And she just kind of looks at her dad like, please don't make me deal with this right now. I don't want to have to deal with this right now.
um, sure. He sort of like looks at you, s- quite like he can't quite yeah doesn't quite let out a sigh, but you can tell that he was about to do that. And he's like, "It's all right. It's all right, darling. I'm sure we can talk to the the families and we'll sort it out. Perhaps after you graduate college, we'll have a second opinion on it. Perhaps a little bit more elaborate. And you can tell that your mother is sort of pinching his arm, trying to make him stop proceeding with that subject. Ah, fine. All right. I understand. Anyway, how would have you been hanging out with Apollo lately? I mean, it's been a long time since you mentioned him.
Um, he's been around a little bit, but I've been really busy with classes and extra study groups. Um, we've come past each other in passing, but it's been difficult to get time to spend together. Um, but I know that we have some other uh, events coming up that I know that we had already planned on going to. So I will be seeing him again soon. It's just been very hard to get our paths crossing lately.
Um, and you can tell that while you were saying like study groups and other events, your mother is sort of like gives you that knowing look, like I think I know what you're talking about, and you're not talking about study groups. And she sort of like smiles and doesn't say anything, and she sort of leans a little bit heavier on your father, who sort of like says, "Oh well, if when you do see him, it would be lovely to have him over for dinner. He was such a delightful company last time he came visit.
Yeah, I'll bring him over.
Delightful. Um, shall we get back to our reading though?" Like he starts reading out loud the passages of a book about the philosophy of love, which is a little bit of a strange subject and is a little bit of a favorite book shared between your parents. And that is where we fade to black, and that little awkward family moment, which perhaps feels, I hope, feels a little bit too real, because it certainly feels very real to me, because that happens every single goddamn family reunion.
Yet.
Um, yeah. So let's go back over to Robin. Robin, what scene would you like to see next?
Let's do the bank's hosted dinner.
All right. So, ooh, we see a hall, massive, high ceiling, adorned with crystal chandeliers, each loaded with about 100 candles each, glowing ever so dimly, but together casting this orange glow beneath it. We see tables that stretch the entire length of the hall, breaking only every about 15 meters of this 100-meter long hall. Um, and we see the very very much excessive staff hired for this event, and about 200 guests at the Robin Estate. Sorry, not Robin Estate, Bank Estate. We see faces which belong to the noble houses of Corvosa. And there is there are the now a little bit more familiar faces of the sun's. Oh, sorry, the Suntress no heads of the family, which I am now gonna proceed to show because I forgot to do
Yeah.
that.
I forgot to mention that I was too enthralled in the
Yeah, no, that's
art
perfectly
bit.
fine.
How
So
dare you?
I know.
these are how I've decided to depict your parents, Solera.
I like it.
Oh.
Yeah,
Nice.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I think they actually look like Solera's parents.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
they
do.
do.
They really do.
100%,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, dad is exactly like how I envisioned him,
Huh? Yeah.
and mom is like me, but like older.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I love it.
And a little bit
Yeah.
more, sort of calm looking and less filled with that sort of jovial energy. All right. So we see the faces in this banquet of both Anais and Mael. We also see the as he enters, we see Frank come in and sort of look around, trying to spot some known faces. He sort of waves his hand as someone spots him and starts to sort of weave himself through the mass of fine guests at the event. And he ends up next to you, Solera. And this time, it's about the same age from the last scene. And as he's standing next to you, he's sort of looking at Mael and says, I believe we have a little bit of a surprise for you, Mael." And he sort of turns and says, like, "Oh, really? Sorry, darling, Solera. Let me introduce you. This here is Sir Frank Lion Nuki." And he sort of gestures at the gentleman and says, he bows in response. Says, darling, I do believe I mentioned this. Solera, this is he sort of looks over at the guest. This is my purveyor of arts, my most dear companion at our fine trade. The man bows again and says, "You give me too much credit, of course, but it is indeed what I do for a living." And he sort of is saying that more so to you, Solera, than to Anais. And as you were sort of having a little bit of a conversation there, which quickly devolves into subjects about work more so than anything else, we see the heads of the nobles start to turn towards the end of the hall, where a very much, very, very much out of shape Richard Bank comes in. He's not. He has put on quite a bit of weight. He's not looking morbidly obese, but he is looking like he has added a good 6 or 7 sizes to his clothes easily. His belly, that was last time we've seen him, was just barely showing through his clothes. Now sort of looks like a balloon, as his chest hasn't had enough time to expand in tandem with his stomach. And we see him sort of walking with a cane, sort of with a little bit of a limp. As he walks in, we see his skin has turned this like paler shade of gray. His hair has started to fall a little bit, where we once saw that sort of very rich buckle, loop the loop, hanging in front of his face. There's just nothing there. The sideburns are completely gone. The top of his head has almost completely balded. And he's wearing a little bit of a large gown, sort of masking a little bit the shape of his body. And beside him is a very, very beautiful woman with raven black hair, who's dressed with a long-tailed dress, and next to them is young Robin. Um, he's looking a little, just slightly younger than what he looks like nowadays. And as they come in, we see Richard take the sort of the climb the steps to the stage, and as he takes up the podium, he sort of waves his hand at everyone and says, "I I welcome you all to our celebration of the 200th year of our house in Corvosa. I believe this is the most joyous occasion for us Bangs to revel in the great successes of our family and to share our wealth and good fortune with our fellow lords and ladies. Please enjoy the feasts we have prepared, and I'm sure there will be much entertainment to be had." He sighs. You can tell like people are a little bit feeling a little bit awkward about the kind of addressing and like the lack of energy. And Richard just looks around, sighs again, and starts walking off stage without further addressing the crowd. You can start to hear the silence that had overtaken the room, uh, broken by a little bit of a mumble, which grows into whispers of what might have been going on in the background since last they saw him. And as those whispers continue to grow, we suddenly see the room filled once more with that sort of energy of a rambunctious party to be had. Salera, as the conversation between Sir Frank and your father comes to a close, or well, picks up and then proceeds to change its subject. He says, "You know, I believe, speaking, following those words that Mr. Richard has given us, I think I should do the same. I should share my good fortune and riches with my fellow nobles. Well, I say fellow, but surely I do not believe I'm the same level as you. And like you see both of your parents just like dismiss the comment, like you're a friend of ours. Celia, how do you feel about
Uh,
that? As you're sort of forcefully being kept in this conversation for the time.
I am definitely I look at my dad, get me out of here. And then I just kind of like look around like as he's speaking, half listening, to see if there's anything more exciting going on. And I'm gonna nod like I'm really listening.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
as
yeah.
you
Actually, in that moment, I think that you would probably hear a clatter as Dorban with Alkbar there drops his food.
all right. So as we're seeing this scene, and Frank is sort of like, well, I should share my good fortune with. As he sort of turns around and he looks at his like the back of his pants as a little bit of beer has been spilt there, and we see the mug and the tray of food now sprayed about the floor. Dwarven there, like standing a little bit awkwardly, looking probably at Frank, and Frank looking back and goes like, um, "Don't worry about it. I think I can handle it."
And while this is happening, I'm like turning my face just a little bit, not to laugh, because I'm trying to be a lady.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
And
doing
like
my best. anticipate the smack that I'm sure is about to come from Alkbar once everybody stops looking at me.
Yeah, so like it's like people are still looking at you, and you're like anticipating. It's like he's gonna hit me as soon as people are not looking, and then you feel that smack on the back of your head while still everyone's looking at you, and like Akbar is like, you just couldn't. Um, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Like he's apologizing to the rest, and like everyone's like, no, don't worry about it. Like they're very dismissive about the opportunity, but like you're like now sort of slightly having been publicly ashamed. Celera, people are not looking at you, and if you were to slink away at this time, they wouldn't notice.
Yup, doing that.
Right. So this is how somehow, despite being not 10 feet away from each other, Celera and Dorban did not meet properly until about 5 months later.
So funny.
It's my first trip into Noble. I don't know what I'm doing, man. I'm so nervous.
As Dorban, you're trying to, recover from the sort of very awkward social situation.
I would help clean up my mess, obviously.
Yeah, and like once you're starting to start to clean up, you see several of the staff members come into to work, and like Alkbar sort of taps your back and says, "No, it doesn't look well if you're working." And like he's trying to pick you back up, like as you were leaning down, like, well, we'll go fetch ourselves another ale. I think we haven't had enough. And like he sort of pushes you towards the bar.
Apparently, I need to fucking loosen up.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this is boring. How do you do this?
Years of practice, my boy. Years of practice. As
We're just gonna be out in the wilderness and stuff, but here we are in this.
yeah, don't get me wrong. I know. It's a lot more entertaining to be outside. Trust me. I agree. It's like you can see that he's like his belly is very much like being suffocated by the clothes he's wearing. It's just like wearing this very much like finer but still religious like tunic with it's a tabard on top of a very constraining sort of tuxedo underneath. And he's like, I need to breathe air. Also, beer, please. I need a nail. As he's like taking you there. And that's how we're gonna wrap that scene as we fade to black once more. That was Robin. So Dorban, what scene would you like to see next? Remember that we have more scenes for NPCs, and we have. I didn't mention this, but we do have some scenes for the characters that are not here. If you'd like to see something from them, but you can also pick anything.
I think I'm gonna go with the ranger. I can't remember her name.
Shalelu?
Shalelu, that's the one.
Ooh, okay. So, this is gonna be a little bit different because you guys, none of your characters are there. None of your characters have any sort of involvement with this, but we see a quaint little elven town, tucked away in the depths of the forest, protected by the natural camouflage that is provided by nature. We see the houses built into the leaves, into the canopy of the forest, and there's quite a large population of elves, and they're sort of very calmly going about their daily business. And we see Shalelu with a lot younger looking than she looked like last time we saw her. And she's sporting a very crude bow as she is pulling and letting loose, launching one arrow after the next, and we hear the thunk, thuck, thunk, thuck, as we see one arrow after the next hit close to a perfect target on the training dummies besides one of the massive oak trees. And we see her trainer come behind her and look at what she had cost, like how well she was doing. And she like leans in. And is, I don't think you're quite there yet. You need to aim a little bit. Oh, hang on, no, I forgot to do the accent for the elves.
Oh yeah.
Because it's from Shillelagh's hometown.
Yep.
Right now, you need to aim just a little bit up and to the left, and lose a little bit your elbow. You're keeping too much tension there. But you're doing better. You're doing better. You almost get to start your work in the guard. And as she turns around and goes to look at the next trainee, we hear bells ringing and screaming from the top of the trees. Take cover! Take cover! As we see a massive green dragon break through the canopy and start to spray its acid breath upon the people in the town. And we see panic ensue in the town as we see Shillelagh start to look around, trying to find her mother, start running towards her home, her bow in hand, as she jumps over one of the fences. And we see her sort of look at a man, a human, the only human we've seen in this scene so far, coming out of her house, and she crosses her eye. She sort of looks at the man's eyes for a second, as we see him go towards where the dragon is, brandishing a blade and a bow in his back, and she runs indoors. Where we see her sort of holding her mother, who is still in bed, sick, and we see through the window this man start to ready his bow and launch a black metal arrow at the dragon, and we hear the screams of people. The trees are starting to crack under their own weight as their flesh is corroded away by the acid, and we see the massive claws of the dragon split apart the oaks. And as one of the oaks breaks, we hear it crash, and we see inside of that quaint little house of Chelele's, the room shakes. Everything starts to fall upon her, and as she tries to block a nearby shelf from falling on top of her mother, she puts her back on top of her, and we see her lose consciousness. And as we see the scene come back into focus, we see Shalelu out in the open, her chest wrapped in bandages. We see several of the tree homes destroyed, including one that still has the markings of her home, of her family home. And we see among the now mostly covered corpses, which are on religious display to one side of the main hall of the town. We see Shalelu's mother, and as we zoom out and start to look further and further away from this event, we see down the road, a good mile away from the event, the same man with a bow on his back, walking away from this destroyed elven town. And that is where that scene ends. Yeah. Now you know a little bit more about Shalelu.
Not
I got a
dragon.
question.
Well,
For green
Shalelu.
dragons, do they get both acid and gas breath?
I thought it was acid, but it might be gas breath. Hang on.
It is. It's. I think it's a cloud of acid. Yeah. I think it's foam.
Yeah, I mean, for the sake of narrative purposes, it's sort of like flying as it breathes its fire, and it spreads. Sorry, not its fire, its breath, as it breathes this cloud of acid as it flies over the town, sort of spreading that acid. It A green dragon has okay, it doesn't. It's not saying here. Breath, 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 breath.
I know Black Dragon has
Acid.
a lot
No,
of
it is.
acid.
No. Green dragons breathe acid.
Oh,
In a cone, right?
Yes, as a 70
Yeah.
feet cone. Holy shit, that's a big cone.
Yeah.
70 foot cone, and depending on the type of the age of the dragon, it deals more and more damage as it becomes more and more infused with magic. All right, that was Dorbin's scene, choice of scene. Salera, it is your turn.
Let's see a scene for Sigus.
For
There you
Sigus, all right. Oh boy. Alright, which one of the two should I do? I'll do the one that has the least input from him, so that he doesn't miss out on an opportunity. So we see Sigus with a rather large backpack on his back, sitting on the back of a cart, departing from a much more rambunctious town that is Magnamar, on the way to dear old Sandpoint. And as we see him sort of bobbing up and down with the movement of the cart, he's sort of reading through the pages on his diary, his soon-to-be spell book in the future, and like he's taking notes, and we see sort of this entry about his parents show up, and as he mentions them, we sort of see a flashback within a flashback. We see the interior of a quaint house, a commoner's house in Magnamore, filled with the different tools of the trade that his father kept around. And we see a very, very distressed woman, sort of on the border of breaking into tears as she's reading some news on the paper before her. And just as we see that, we break back onto the cart, and we see Sigyn sort of shaking his head, sighing deeply, and closing his diary as he looks over towards the man on the reins of this cart, and the man looks back and says, "You're right. You're right, nephew. I promise that my home is, well, it might not be better than yours at McNamara, but it'll be fitting. You'll have a good time there." He's like hits the reins on the horses a little bit again, to hasten the pace. And as we do, we see in the distance the fires raging on in Sandpoint, and as we see the camera sort of pan over the fires, we see the different sawmills of Sandpoint burning away, and the cathedral itself engulfed in flames as we see through a window, or sorry, walking away from a broken window, discarding a still lit torch to the side, a much younger and rather scrawny looking Nualia, as she looks back with rage in her eyes and then turns back again to walk away. Right. That's a little bit of information, not only on how things went down for Sigus, but also Sandpoint in general. All right.
nice.
Let's take a a very quick like 10-minute break, like just chit chat, see where we're standing on the content. You guys can talk among yourself of like what you guys would like to see next, just so that I can rest a little bit because these ones are like bam 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 narration. Yeah, a lot of wait for me.
Yeah. Well, shoot.
All right.
Well, dang.
How you guys enjoying it?
I'm liking a lot.
Good.
Yeah.
I want more.
I'm trying to think of what, because I'm up next, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to think of what, like, maybe we can get like a consensus and do like one more. I think, like a big one.
Oh,
What other ones do we have access to?
so I do have the ability to do a little bit of improv for the scenes. So if you have a new idea that came up as a result of another scene, you can ask me to expand on that. You guys still have Celera's showing up at Apollo's door. You have Celera showing up, going to a concert with Apollo, or well, Apollo's concert. There is also Durban at High Noble's court, following the battle that we saw from Alkbar. We also have one more scene that I think I forgot to mention, of Robin Banks.
yeah, I kind of want to see that one. I'm not gonna lie, because there are, well, also, the raven-haired lady was not shown. And there's another gentleman that was not shown, so we can show them as part of that.
Well, yes. I also haven't.
Yes.
Now that I think about it, I haven't prepared the tokens for the two of them, despite having prepared a lot more tokens.
That's okay. You have like hundreds of tokens, but you still have the photos, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just gonna prepare them as you guys figure out which one you guys want to see next.
I really, really, really want to see Solera going to Apollo's.
To the concert, yeah.
No, not the concert. The other one.
Oh, to the house.
His house?
I mean, yeah. The concert would be cool, but I'm just the whole house thing.
And Dorban in court, because we need to know what happened.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
We've already seen him in court once.
Exactly.
Didn't know
Yep.
All right. Remember that, like, even though it's your turn to pick, you can pick one of the scenes for the other people here, right? And just like Dorban did, remember that you can always choose to add something to another player's story if you'd like to complicate things.
Yeah.
Thing.
I'm ready.
Whoops. Close that. I really hate how now Chrome, with Windows, when you download an image, it will automatically try to open it.
Really?
Really?
Yep.
No.
Sure will.
Yeah.
That sounds awful.
Yeah. Robin, your aunt's name is Elizabeth, or and shortened to Ellie, right?
It's Alicia.
Elysia.
Shortened to L.
Cute.
Yes. Save image? Does this do? Mine's not auto-opening. It might just be a setting you have to change.
Yeah, I might need to check my settings for it. Yeah. Alright. Alright, so who's... I completely lost track of... it is Robin who's next?
Yeah.
Alright.
Yes.
So do you know...
let's do the Silera one. Because I know that Heidi really wants to hear what's going on, so we're gonna do that one first.
Alright.
We don't have to do that one first. It just.
No, we're doing that one first.
Okay,
No, we're doing that one first. Yeah.
Okay.
I want to know why you want to know so bad. Yeah.
Alright. We'll go over to it in just a second. I'm trying to figure out...
Rest your voice just a tad.
Yeah. In the meantime, Robin, can you do me a favor and send me a better picture for Elle? because the way that picture is cropped does not work for tokens.
Absolutely.
So,
Give me
Dick,
one
get a better
moment.
Momento.
You should be better at this. Come on.
Also, once you guys see the pictures, if you haven't seen them yet, you we're gonna get copyright stricken. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably. Yeah, absolutely.
sure.
That's why I'm trying to find like fan art of it and not just like photos of it, because you know, it's a little less
Conspicuous.
yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Interesting.
That could work. I'll take my time so Vosen can chill.
Sure.
You know,
I have totally not been looking at the chat and what's going on there.
Voice for thing.
He needs to breathe.
So are we doing? doing-
Sorry, he needs to
we
breathe
doing-
beer. Yes.
He needs to breathe beer.
Yeah. Yes.
Are we doing what?
One more round. Is that what we're doing?
We have enough content for 2 more rounds if you guys want to do
Okay.
the full thing. I would say let's do 1 more round. So Robin is going next. So it's going to be Robin, Dorban, Salera. We finish there. And then whatever is left over, we're going to keep for next time that we do in one of these.
Mm-hmm.
Deal.
I'm done.
All right. All right. So Robin, your pick of scene was what?
I wanna do the Silera one where she goes to Palos.
All right, we're gonna do that next once you send me that picture of Ellie. Sorry.
L. Yeah.
You keep wanting to call her Ellie.
Yeah, because there's a lot of I sounds on that name, and I want to say Ellie.
Alicia, yeah.
Yeah. Because Elysia, you would normally say Ellie, not L.
Yeah. But
She
she's
just-
she's anti-L.
Yeah.
Anti-L, yeah. That one's okay, right? I think that worked.
Yeah, this one should work. Copy link. I'm gonna.
And you have the one for the other.
Yeah, for Thane, I have a picture that works.
Perfect.
And I don't know why, but anti-L reminds me of Auntie M from The Wizard of Oz.
Oh,
Annie
two
M,
totally
Annie
fucking different characters. Oh my god.
M.
Holy shit. You could not be more wrong.
Oh no.
Oh
I'm
my
excited.
god.
To be wrong.
She is very beautiful woman, and I am gonna show you guys the token for her in just a moment. And it's gonna take you about 0.3 seconds to recognize who the original owner of that art is,
Yeah.
but bear with me.
That's why we can't name drop anything. We just have to be like, yeah, this is what they look like. It's
Mhm.
not a reference to anything at all.
Uh-huh.
It's okay. It's been a long running thing in my headcanon for a very long time. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm making it work.
In your head canon.
Yeah.
So,
Canon's a real thing.
Salera,
Yeah.
as we are preparing for the upcoming scene, this would be about 2 months after, 2 or 3 months after the party at the Banks estate. Yeah? And one of the things that came out of that party, or at least in the time since that party, is that one, the Banks bank has been robbed of a large sum of money. Not all of its its vault was not emptied, but a noticeable amount of money went missing. Um,
That is very public knowledge, I would imagine.
yes, it has been making the rounds around Corvosa.
Sounds like it would be very yeah, it would be easy for rumors and
Yeah, it's sort of like
all of that to go around and point fingers.
It's sort of like the largest fucking bank in the city and probably the entire region surrounding it, because Corvosa is the capital of its surrounding region. Just got robbed, which is something that has never happened, and also it's a lot of money that belongs to nobles. So people are making a lot of noise about it. That is point number one. Point number two is that your father, after that event at the Banks estate, was a little bit disappointed that you slinked away when you did, and would have let you know that even though he didn't have any plans for it, Sir Frank did offer up his prized vessel. Should you like to have a little bit of a summer day out on the sea, relaxing, enjoying the ocean, fishing, perhaps having a little bit of a drink with your friends. Maybe you can bring Apollo along when you go out and have a little bit of a trip there. And that you have that ship at your disposition for a day should you require it. All you have to do is ask for Sir Frank.
Okay. Thanks, Sir
So
Frank.
she
I
wants
just
to
didn't
go
wanna hang out
fishing
with
near
you.
Magnamar.
Yeah. So let's get our hands on the scene. So, we said we want to do Solera arriving at Apollo stores, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh. So Solera, as we see the outside of Apollo's house, the roads of Corvosa in the Commoners district now. We see that it's late at night. You have slinked away from your house, and in the embrace of the night, managed to get undetected to Apollo's house. The road is still a little bit populated, as Corvosa has an active nightlife, but you hear that sort of sweet, the sweet, almost honeyed baritones of Apollo's voice as he's practicing a few new lines, and you hear the strums on his guitar. He's like, no, that's not gonna work. It needs to be a little bit sweeter. And like at that point, you're free to knock on the door, or how would you like to enter? Actually, this scene.
I am going to knock on the door very quickly. And I would imagine that I was running, just out of pure adrenaline and willingness to do what I have to do. And I'm kind of like looking around to see if anybody is noticing me as I'm knocking very quickly at his door.
Yeah, you probably have like a shawl over your head so that people don't look at your very attention grabbing golden flocks and your sparkling skin. I keep finding that so funny for some reason. As you knock on the door, you hear, who would come at this hour? I'm going. is you hear the pitter patter of his feet as he rushes to the door, opens it up, and goes like, "Celera, what are what are you doing here?" As he's like trying to look concerned, but he has like this smile on his face.
And I'm like, I am so happy to see you.
Likewise, come in, come in. Do you? As he like doesn't really wait for you to answer. He's like moved out of the way, has his door open, and we can see the inside of his sort of bachelor's apartment. As about 80% of the floor is just covered in paper with different discarded verses of different songs, to the point where it doesn't quite look. It doesn't look like trash. There's a little bit of an artistic chaos to it, even, and it looks like his walls have been covered from floor to ceiling with a very particular wallpaper made out of entirely of musical scores and vocal verses. And he sort of offers you to come in.
My eyes are huge, and I'm like looking around, almost like forgetting that I have this big news, and I'm so excited to tell him. And I'm just like, what the heck? Is this why I haven't seen you in a little bit?
Yes, I have been hard at work as he's like closing the door behind you. I remember my thesis. I think I showed you the song. Um, when I finished Bardic College, I didn't know what to do with the instrumental parts, so I've been trying to do some arrangements for it and writing some words for it, but can't I can't quite get the right lyrics for it. It doesn't feel right, you know?
Well, I know you, and I know that you just need something to spark your genius because it's there. So
Thanks.
I think that you just need to just kind of let it lie and wait for that genius to click. Speaking of I have a genius plan, and I have to tell you about my exciting news, and I need you to be a part of it, just because you're the only person that I'm telling.
Yes, of course. It's like you see his face light up at the opportunity, and like yeah, of course. Um, T, while you explain, I need to rest my vocal cords as he's like already moving around his paper, and like you see him lifting his leg not to step on anything, grabs two mugs, puts them on the table, sort of brushes off some of the scores off of the table, and they fly, and you see them sort of twirl in the air and land somewhere that looks like, yeah, no, that paper should have definitely been there all along.
And I just am like looking at it, like trying to decipher part of the music, distracted again as I get.
Yeah.
And then thank you for the tea. Okay, so um, I just okay. I guess I'm just gonna start from the beginning. Okay, so do you remember back at Bardic College when we were talking about our future and what we wanted to do with our future?
Yeah. I, I I think I recall you not being sure about what you wanted to do.
I figured it out. I know what I'm doing.
Really?
Yeah, so mom and dad have been pushing me ever since just the middle of classes to they're like this person would be great for you. You need to marry this person and this person, and I'm just like I don't I understand my role, and I appreciate them trying to out for me and find somebody that's going to be great for me. But sometimes I feel like mom and dad don't know anything about me, and they pick these terrible people. And so I've decided that I'm going to go and on my own, and I am going to go on this epic adventure, and I'm going to leave Corvosa, and I don't know where it's going to take me, but I'm going.
Wow, that is. You know what? Hell yeah! As he sort of like holds up a hand in the air for a high five.
And then, yeah, high five.
Smack. You know what? I'm on board. Actually, you know what? Hang on. I think I just figured out the right lyrics for the song. Different song, different tone, but I think I have it. Hang on. And like he leaves you for a second, drinking your tea. Says, "You're not in a rush. I just need to get this out of my head." Is he's like already grabbing his guitar and putting it over one of his knees, like starts strumming a couple chords and goes like, do you mind if I sing it to you? Can you do me a back and forth?
Sure.
All right. Simple, 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 so simple. Oh, far too simple. No, that's not quite right. Hang on. Simple, so simple. Far too simple was all she knew. Oh, no, not the right chord. Where is it? I think in her heart a warrior grew. The signs were there, we all knew. But if you know her, and I know I do, you know she never had a clue. And he sort of winks at that point at you.
Can I just start laughing? What?
I think it works on so many levels. And he puts down the guitar and says, "Alright, how can I help?" And that's where like we see the scene come to a little bit of a close. Sort of fade to black where Salar and Apollo is going to start discussing how she's going to depart. I hope that was interesting, at least.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Next up, Dorban. It is your turn.
Well, since Robin passed his off, I mean, I think. Unfortunately, it is no longer in chronological order, but Robin Banks.
Robin Banks.
Bank. Robin Banks Bank.
Robin D Banks. Robin D. His middle initial is D because that's also a One Piece reference, but also
Yeah.
he's Robin de Banks. Yeah.
All right. So we're going to do sort of a mixture of two scenes for this one. We see Aunt Ellie. Oh, sorry. Hang on. Before we move to the next scene, let's see what Apollo looks like.
Apollo looks like, yeah.
He is a precious fucking boy. Look
Oh, so
at
precious.
his goddamn gorgeous little soft face. Oops.
So
Hang on.
gorgeous.
Hang on. What I wanted to do was Shift Z so I can show it on stream a little bit better.
Got little braids in his hair.
Yeah.
Adorable.
Yeah. And next up, as we open up the scene, we see this same raven-haired woman, which we saw at the Banks banquet, at a table.
The banquet. I'm sorry.
Yes, the banquet.
The
That was the
banquet.
yes, that was the joke. Thank you.
Yeah.
The Banks banquet. The same woman that we saw at the bank's banquet, dressed in this fine long tail dress, um, now in very much not regal clothes. She is wearing uh, skin tight leather armor, strapped with knives on her left shoulder, and we can see them also sticking out from her boot. We see a series of tools, both on her belt, but also on her back, sort of hidden underneath a little bit of a small turf of not quite down feathers, but sort of looks like it, that adorn both her jacket and a little bit of a scarf piece that trickles down her back. And at the same table, we see a man with ashen hair, uh, holding his shin against his knuckles, and besides him, sort of between the two of them, is Robin, who is sort of overlooking what's going on, like trying to pinpoint the schematic, a certain location on the schematics. And as we're looking at the table, we see the layout of a Robin, sorry, of the bank's bank in Corvosa. And Aunt Ellie goes, "All right, I believe we can start here. Thane, you can take out the two guards once we get to the vault. Robin, dear, you can handle a little bit of security, of course, can't you?"
You got it.
Right. I hope that Thane has been properly teaching you. She sort of gives a side glance at him. Is we'll go we'll go through the main door. You'll talk to the guards, see if we can arrange a meeting with the um, local manager. And as we hear her describing this, we see the scene already unfolding as Aunt Ellie, with her tools underneath, is walking in with Robin to his side, um, dressed in with finer robes on top of it all. And they walk in through the main doors into the bank. Everything is sort of working as usual on a rather calm day at Bank's Bank. And uh, as she is sort of describing what's going on, we see it happening. She says, "Well, we'll have to talk to the manager to get the first key, if I'm not mistaken." And we see Robin sort of muted out, talking to the front desk, and the two of them go into a side room where they meet with a gentleman. And we see, as they're going into that office, we see Sir Franks walk in through the main door, and as he spots Thane, who is coming just a few paces behind him, we see a little bit of a smile. He shakes his head and keeps walking towards the attendants, upon which he says, "I'd like to retrieve a more than sizable amount of my money from the bank. I believe about 30,000 platinum should do for today." And sorry, I believe about 30,000 platinum should do for today. And we see the attendants sort of like, "Okay, we got work done, set for us for the day." We see Thane come in, and we hear Ellie's voice go, "All right, then once we've secured the key, Thane will go down the stairs, head into the first underground floor, and you'll have to take out both of the guards before they can ring the bell. Otherwise, we'll have a whole clusterfuck of trouble." And as that is going on, we see also in the room, Robin, you are holding the manager in a chokehold as he has realized what was going on, seeing a knife slip from L's sort of back tool rack. And the moment that metal hit the floor, You jump over the desk, grab him, put him in a chokehold. He passes out before he can ring the bell. Elle sort of looks at you, grabs the key, and bolts it out the door, going towards the side elevator. And as we keep seeing these kind of very snap of the moment occurrences, we see Frank going down the elevator with another attendant going all the way down to the vault. And just for a brief moment, we see him like press a button on the elevator to stop it, and the sort of open grate overlooks into the hallway, where Thane suddenly rushes past the sort of very narrow angle of view with a flying kick, which connects with one of the guards, and then whips around to do a roundhouse kick to the head of the next, to which we just hear two thuds and cracks, and they fall to the ground. And we see the attendant sort of looking at Frank looking at the attendant, and he just like flicks down the lever, and the elevator continues to go down its road to the vault. Robin, you guys make it all the way down to the first of 7 vaults in the layered system that belongs to Banks Bank, and without too much of a hassle, managed to pocket a more than sizable amount. And as you guys are heading out, you sort of already a little bit patting yourselves on the back for the job sort of well done. You see an elevator coming back up, and you spot the set of guards coming down the stairs, sort of blocking the exit. And with a very oddly well-timed appearance, the elevator stops and goes ding, and the great door opens up. Thane sort of staring down at the guards, you and Ellie sort of with bags full of money in your hands, look to the right, see the elevator, look down the other hallway, see the guards. Thane sort of looks around and says, fuck, alright, I got this. And takes out brass knuckles, punches the first of the guards that are coming charging at him. You guys go to elevator. He blocks the way. Guards sort of tripping over the unconscious bodies of the other ones. As the door starts to close on the elevator, he jumps in, sort of turning his body. You see the bag he's holding sort of get caught in one of the hooks that form part of the machinery, and you see several of the coins just spilling forth out into the floor. And the guards sort of don't quite make it, and they are looking at the elevator slowly fading upwards in a way, and they turn around and say, "What are you doing, idiots? Go get them!" As they are turn back around, start going up the stairs, rushing up. We hear the bells start to ring as the elevator doesn't stop on the base floor, but goes one up. And moments later, we see Ellie, Thane, and Robin sort of jumping from one rooftop to another, running through Corvosa until they manage to get to a little bit of a hiding hole on one side of a church dedicated to a lesser-known god. Perhaps one that not the public doesn't know is there. As Ellie is the first to go in, flashes a holy symbol of this entity, this old god, which looks like a black face with a white star for one eye. And the three of you get in there, and that's where we fade to black, and we see as a sort of afterward to that scene, the wanted poster with the face of Robin at its front, and underneath says, "Wanted, dead or alive, 2,000 platinum pieces." Sort of flickering in the air on the streets of Corvosa. And that is where that scene is going to end. And I think that is also a very good point to end the session. And I'm sorry that I'm going to do that to you, Robert, but I think that is
That's
sort of the high point to end it at. Also,
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Next time that we do this, we are going to start with you, Dorban.
All right, sounds good.
That's good. Yeah.
Right. How do you like my description of essentially a Ocean's 11 movie?
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. You need to show them though.
Yes, let me show you what Ellie and Thane look like. And if my description...
I will remind you, it's L.
Sorry, on TL. I spelled it ELLE. I don't know if that's how
Yes.
you envision
Yes.
it.
L.
Okay.
Yeah. Like
Elwood.
like- and like Belle, right?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I went to like really white girl status.
On TL and Uncle Thane, I don't know if
Yeah.
that couple looks any somewhat familiar to any of you.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
No. There's
No.
totally no recent show that was a
Oh.
massive success
Um,
that occurred recently.
not at all.
Not at all. Never seen them
Yeah.
before in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's
it's
yeah,
like you
doesn't make any
you
sense to me.
drew them
I don't know.
yourself.
Yeah, I clearly drew them
That's straight out of your
myself.
headspace for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, all the words that come out of her mouth involve sarcasms and satirical wit.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And also, I totally didn't try to do a deep, grumbly voice for Thane, and almost went like, "Fuck." Fuck.
Yeah.
All right, I'll handle this.
Yep.
All right.
Mhm.
And that's gonna be our session for tonight, I guess.
Mhm.
I hope that everyone enjoyed it, and if you guys are still on the stream watching, I'm gonna say goodbye because I'm gonna end the stream there, and we're gonna hang out in Tavern for a while.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Bye, stream.
Bye, stream. Thanks for
Bye,
watching.
stream. We love you, chat.
stream.
Bye.